Can I brew this homebrew icon from the comfort of my own home? Let's find out. What's up guys, it's Zach here from Metal at Homebrew. Welcome back to another grain to glass video. Sorry it's been a bit of a while since I put a video out, life's got in the way, you know how it is. Today is going to be ever so slightly different. We are not brewing a recipe of my own today. I'm going to attempt to do a clone recipe of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. If you're into beer, you'll likely know all about that beer. It doesn't really need any introduction. But if for whatever reason you've never had it, it is an absolute icon of the craft beer world. It's sort of considered one of the original craft beers as such. Maybe not the first, but one of the first big ones that sort of sparked the craft beer movement. I know for a lot of guys in the UK, not me personally, I was a bit late to the party, but Sierra Nevada was one of the first sort of American craft beers that came across. And it's sort of widely touted as being one of the beers that sparked the craft beer revolution within the UK. So it's a big beer, it's a lovely beer. Back in its day, it was quite revolutionary. Nowadays, it's probably considered fairly tame, but it doesn't take away the heritage and the sort of brewing prowess it has. It really genuinely is a nice beer. The first thing I would say about brewing clones, though, is that although we call them a clone, you're never ever going to make it exactly the same at home. There's going to be variations in grain, different harvest. Same with the hops. Different harvests are going to have different flavour profiles, etc. You're going to have differences in water, differences in brewing systems. There's differences across the board. You're never going to get it perfect. But that being said, it doesn't mean you can't get close and still make a damn good beer. So that is exactly what we're going to attempt to do today. Thankfully, Sierra Nevada have been really helpful and actually put their exact recipe online so that you can see it. They haven't given the exact malts they've used, etc. But you can get close enough and make a good guess yourself based on what they've put online. But anyway, let's get into it. As always, the first thing I did was prep my water. Again, I've used Tesco Ashbeck water. It works well for me all the time. Water profile is linked above. For this one, Sierra Nevada haven't released their specific water profile. I couldn't find anything online to find anyone who'd got the exact water profile. So what I've done is I've used a pale ale profile suggested by Randy Mosher. He's quite famous in the homebrewing world. He knows a lot about a lot of things. I have used this water profile before and it's worked quite well, so I thought why not give it a go for this one. I've linked that water profile above, but as you can see, that the main points to note are that there's quite a significant sulfate to chloride ratio. That should help with that sort of bitterness that you want out of a pale ale such as this one. His water profile really does have a massive sulfate to chloride ratio. I wasn't able to match that exactly, so my sulfates are a fair bit down on that, but I still have a good sulfate to chloride ratio, and so it should still work quite nicely. You can see there I've put the water salts in the night before, let it all settle, so that when I get up on brew day, it's ready to rock and roll. Right, onto the recipe itself then. Incredibly simple. Such a nice beer, and I think that is because of that simplicity. But essentially, we've gone for 92% pale malt. I've gone for crisp extra pale, and then the extra 8% is made up of a crystal malt. I've gone for Thomas Fawcett pale crystal malt. Reason I went for that one is I've done quite a bit of research online, seen a few other recipes, and that combination seems to come up quite a lot. It was used by the malt miller in their very similar version to Sierra Nevada. Those guys know what they're talking about, so I thought that's exactly how I'm going to do it. So I've used that combination. Like I say, nice and simple, but should give it lots of flavour and a nice backbone for the hops to work with. The mash temperature for this beer is going to be 68 degrees C, which is slightly higher. That should give it that extra little bit of body and almost, I don't want to say sweetness, but Sierra Nevada to me is not really dry and bitter like some of the West Coast IPAs that are around now. So that extra bit of mash temperature should hopefully even it all out, shall we say. But anyway, as you can see, I've mashed it all in and we've now got the recirculation going and it's starting to look quite good. The colour's looking a touch light, or it was to start with. I think the reason for that is that the crystal malt that I got was actually slightly lower in colour value than originally advertised, but it's not going to make a blind bit of difference. It's already looking good and I'm not concerned in any way about that. Right, the 1 hour mash is now up, so I've raised the temperature to 75 degrees C and I let it sit there for 10 minutes, which is a mash out step. It just sort of ends any conversion and gets ready for us to move on to the next step. As soon as that's done, I will set my brew system to max power and start heating up towards boil temperature, because that takes a little bit of time. While it's heating up, I will raise the grain basket and sparge in my normal way, which you've seen me do many times before. Jug, pour it over the top, slowly but surely let it all drip through. And when it's all drained through, we will then squeeze it and get every last drop of beer out. I'll then remove the grain, bag all of the grain up, which I give to the gentleman with the chickens. He feeds rescue chickens with it. And then I'll do a bunch of cleaning. So I'll clean the malt pipe and any other bits and bobs I don't need for the rest of the brew. Obviously, while I'm doing all of that, we're heating up the boil temperature. So we'll catch up again once we're at the boil. We have got a lovely rolling boil going there. No longer worried about the colour because it is looking almost spot on. Maybe a touch light, but not too worried at all. But anyway, this boil is actually 90 minutes long. It's a little bit longer than the conventional 60, but that's what Sierra Nevada said that they do with this beer, so I'm going to stick to their recipe. There's a few hop additions in this. However, it is all Cascade. They use whole cone hops for theirs. I toyed with the idea of doing it, but they were harder to get hold of, and they're a bit of a pain in the arse in the Brewzilla, in all honesty. So I've gone with the standard pellets. They should work just as well. It might not be exact, but it'll do the job. So the first edition we've got at 90 minutes, so right at the start of the boil, we've got a 10 gram Cascade edition. We've then got another 10 gram edition of Cascade at the 60 minute mark, so an hour left of the boil. We've got 60 grams of Cascade going in at the 30 minute mark. And then finally at flame out, so when I turn the heater off at the very end of the boil, we've got another 60 grams of Cascade going in there. What I then did for this beer was a Whirlpool edition. Well, not a Whirlpool edition as such. I used that as a Whirlpool edition. So I set the temperature to 80 degrees C on the brew system and just let it sit there for around 20 minutes, half an hour, just to extract as much aroma and flavour from those hops as humanly possible. Once that was done, I've chilled it down and I've banged it in the fermenter, ready to put it to bed. Now it's in the fermenter, we need to talk about the fermentation. And we can't talk about fermentation without talking about yeast. So for this beer, I've used WHC's LAX yeast, which it says has been isolated from a very famous brewery in Sierra Nevada, and mentions that it's a Chico strain. That is what Sierra Nevada Brewery use, so hopefully this will be either the real deal or as close as I'm going to get in dry yeast form. I think there's a bunch of liquid yeast you could use, but I don't really use them, so I'm not going to talk about them too much. But essentially, what you're looking for with this beer is quite a clean yeast. You don't want any yeast flavour in this at all. So you want something that's going to attenuate out nicely and just give you a clean profile. This should do exactly that. I would imagine something like US-05 would be another good dry yeast alternative. But use whatever you feel happy with, so long as it's not a yeast strain that's known for giving a lot of flavour. You should be good to go. This one I'm fermenting at 20 degrees C, and I'm just going to leave it till it's done. Nothing complicated, nothing fancy, and it should hopefully ferment out really quite quickly. I'm expecting it to be done in around 3 to 4 days, and hopefully after a week or so I'll be kegging it. As you saw from that footage, around 48 hours in, that thing was absolutely ripping. There was a huge krausen on it and it was bubbling away like mad. I expected that, and it really has fermented out quite quickly. So it's now been just over a week. I think we're on 8 days since I pitched that yeast. It was well and truly done within about 3 or 4 days. I've given it a full 7 days in the fermenter just to clean it up before I've started a cold crash. So as we speak, it's currently cold crashing out in the fermentation chamber. Intention being to keg it within the next day or so. My plan with this one, because I want to drink it quite quickly, because stupidly I've completely run out of beer, which is sacrilege for a home brewer, I know. But I have. The only thing I've got on tap right now is sparkling water. But anyway, we'll get it kegged, and I'm going to use some finings in this, which I don't always do, but I want this one to clear up so that it looks the part, really. I am going to use Browsol. It's a silicon-based fining, so it's vegan friendly, if that's your thing. I don't use it specifically for that reason, but it just works well. So we'll stick that in, and we'll come back when this beer is ready. Right, the final product then. Obviously, looks-wise, the elephant in the room, it is still a little bit hazy. That is because it's only been in the keg 7 or 8 days. Obviously, normally I'd leave it a bit longer, but I wanted to get the video out. And I did say that I was going to use some finings, which was the plan. But unfortunately, the browsol I had was months out of date because I very rarely use it. So I thought better of it and I haven't put it in there. However, you can see it's a nice sort of golden coppery colour with quite a nice tight white head. And it's quite an appealing looking beer despite the haze. But I mean, that will drop out soon. In terms of the aroma, it's quite understated, but you get a little bit of pine, a little bit of citrus, but it has got that nice sweet, slightly sweet, malty scent that I would sort of expect from Sierra Nevada. And what I like, I do like a malty beer. And although this is obviously hop forward, there is a nice malt scent there. Mouthfeel spot on. It's got that nice whack of bitterness you'd expect from an American style pale ale, and that is, a lot of it's down to the water profile. So that Randy Mosher pale ale profile has done a treat there. It's worked really nicely, so I'm quite happy with that. It's good. Flavour is, as you'd expect, quite similar to Sierra Nevada. So there's a lot, it's obviously hop forward, but there's that nice sweet malty backbone in there that just works really nicely. In terms of the hop character, you've got a lot of pine and a lot of citrus, as you would expect from Sierra Nevada. So all in all, that is a very nice beer. It's worked quite nicely, but obviously it wouldn't be a clone video without a comparison of the real thing. So let's get to it. Now, when I brewed this, I was worried that the colour was going to be a touch too light, but actually, I would argue, aside from the haze, I would argue that the colour is almost identical, so I wouldn't change that at all. So the aroma's very similar. However, the Sierra Nevada's definitely got the edge in terms of citrus notes. Or the real Sierra Nevada, should I say. But there's not much in it. Flavour-wise, there's not a lot in it either. The biggest difference for me is that's more citrusy. The real Sierra Nevada is ever so slightly more citrusy. And that one I would say is ever so slightly more piney. Yeah. As far as clones go, I would say that's a pretty damn close approximation. Sierra Nevada's slightly more citrusy, mine's slightly more piney. They're both very, very similar. It's difficult to give an exact comparison because in all honesty, I think I would say I prefer mine, but that's not being cocky. That's because mine is bang fresh out of the keg. Whereas this one's obviously been in a can, imported from America, and has been sat on a Tesco supermarket shelf for weeks. So it's probably a little bit muted as to what it would ordinarily be. But in terms of the recipe, there's nothing I would change. I would say that they are both very similar beers, both very pleasant. And if you want to brew Sierra Nevada at home, I would have a go with that recipe. As always, appreciate you watching. If there's any other clones you'd like me to do, I'm quite enjoying this clone sort of idea, and I might make it into a bit of a series. If there's any beers you want me to try and clone, please do let me know in the comments and I will have a go. If there's any I can sort of make a good approximation of, I will try it. But yeah, thank you for watching. Cheers.